Scanners picked up the spice you're carrying the second you stepped through.
All right, get up slowly and turn around. Try to run and we open fire.
Pusto, Votola Pakosha. Pusto, Votola Pakosha.
Unless you're good with that blaster, I suggest turning around. Don't try to be a hero, all right? We got enough of those.
The hostage dies.
You planning to tell me your demands at some point?
You find someone we can trust, and maybe we will.
Like who?
Definitely not you, and not another one of your wide-eyed recruits preaching for freedom.
Get out of here and let us deal with this. You're just gonna make a mess of things. You think I don't know that? They're a swoop gang. One wrong move and they'll blow up the place. What are you going to do, huh? Barge in and get half the hostages killed?
What the hell? I need some help here.
Alright, that was sick, wasn't it? Whoa, I'm speaking. Yeah. Last time I spoke in an update video was back all the way in V5. So yeah, it's been a while. But you know, this is a special occasion. This is the biggest 0.1 update we've ever gotten. I managed to reach the Discord message limit 5 times. So it was pretty crazy. I love your emojis, by the way. 8.2 is what I would call a foundational revamp. So many things coming together finally. Obviously in 8.0 we got Coruscant, which is at this point Genesis home base. This is my passion city, and throughout the updates it's developing over time into the Coruscant we all know and love. The difference between 7.0 and 8.0 was huge, you know. 7.0 was still vanilla New Atlantis, just with vanilla buildings scattered all over to give it some sort of like sci-fi concrete jungle look. And 8.0 was Coruscant, obviously. So I rushed a little trying to get all that out because it was just such a drastic experience compared to the previous version. And it kind of like hurt me every time I saw people playing Star Wars Genesis for the first time, and it was that version of the game where it's like not that impressive compared to 8.0. So yeah, that's why I rushed 8.0 and why it was a little buggy, little performance issues, but luckily we've sorted all that out. Its performance is kind of back where it was at 7.0 with the menu lag lessened down, a lot of textures archived, lots of shortcuts fixed, etc. But anyways, once 8.0 and some major bugs were fixed, I could finally chill and work on stuff at my own pace again, which is how we got here. Things didn't really go according to plan though, as some of you may know. My focus was entirely on starting and finishing the Rebel questline before adding any more new features and stuff for you guys to do. I got all the way up to the beginning of the second quest, which isn't much, and then I got convinced to do an economy overhaul, because our old economy was very, very inflated, and a lot of activities were just meaningless to do because of that. So I went ahead and made a sort of reference sheet for our economy based on canon or semi-canon references, and then adjusted all the prices around it. While I was doing that, I thought to myself, this is a good opportunity to add all the current Star Wars ships that we have already in the mod list to the vendors and give them proper prices, you know, might as well. And then I ran into the problem where I really wanted to just get rid of all these vanilla ships at the same time, because there was like there's like a disconnect, you know, having Star Wars ships in the front and then you scroll more and then you just see vanilla ships. Just get rid of the vanilla ships at that point. But when I did that, there was some vendors where it was like 1 or 2 Star Wars ships max, or even like close to empty, like 1 Star Wars ships, and then it was just empty. So I figured I might as well learn how to build my own ships to mod in, which is just a crazy idea to do when I wanted to focus on a story. So I did that, and we got an additional 4 new ships added in from me, and basically a framework with a guide that lets pretty much anyone submit their pre-built ships to be added to Genesis, assuming they stay within the requirements, of course. But anyways, after I did that, I went back to working on the economy and eventually reached all the food. While I was adjusting their individual prices, which wasn't fun, mind you, it's a lot of fucking food, I figured I might as well just do the food and health regen rework while I'm at it. Basically, turning all the food and drinks into 30-minute buffs that boost your HP regen slightly, on top of the newly added default player health regen and the new added health regen perk that you level up. Because, you know, the main problem with Bethesda games in general is like, there's a lot of inventory spam. You open your inventory, like you're 25% health, you're just spamming, eating anything that's within your vicinity just so you go back to 100% health. Then you get shot 2 more times, and then you immediately go back to your inventory. It's a very shitty and like strategy game loop. I want to get out of that. I want that action in an action RPG that I'm trying to make. And yeah, I got pretty close to that. I think the health regen is a huge buff to early game and late game. So I did that. I renamed some items and retextured them all at the same time too, and call it a day. Not all of them are retextured, but a lot are. And the economy was pretty much done after this point. Now you're probably wondering, how in the world did I end up doing Coruscant 2.5 after all of this instead of going back to the Rebel story per the original plan? Well, there was some pretty minor bugs I had to fix with the city, such as a broken quest, like a small side quest, and some lighting issues. But there was also just a weird bug some people had where their city was just too dark at certain times of the day, which was partly my fault, I guess. For the longest time, we've been using a realistic lighting overhaul mod. The only problem with this mod is that it's a little too dark unless you adjust your settings a very specific way. And I didn't really have the capability to force every user to those settings in the early days, but now I do. So I ended up doing like a complete INI rewrite with a new lighting system and lighting up some of the really pitch black shadows, which look really good at like outside areas, but it looks terrible everywhere else. So I had to redo some of those. And also raise the contrast so that all the colors aren't as washed out anymore in the actual important areas. So end result, external areas, biomes, and planets like Tatooine all look still good, just a little bit better. And the caveat is that Coruscant was made even darker. Rightfully so, by the way, because I hadn't added pretty much any additional lighting to Coruscant. In fact, I actually ended up making it darker every time I update it because I'm just deleting a lot of the vanilla lights that are just floating in the sky. So fuck it, I did a complete lighting overhaul, added a bunch of lights and realistic ambient light coming from holograms and stuff. It was looking good. At this point, after all this work, I figured I might as well just add the new vendors in the expanded spots too. So I made a weapon vendor that sells illegal blasters, and then I also made a black market armor vendor that sells a unique armor and helmet that resets every day. Kind of like the Destiny 2, whatever his name vendor is, that like has a new stock every 7 days. Exactly like that, just one day. And his inventory though is pretty limited right now, but it's gonna be a great place for the future to just put armors that don't make much sense for the era. Stuff like Old Republic Trooper armor or like Clone Force 99 armor, where you're not really gonna encounter an enemy or a boss that has this armor or realistically take it for them, but you would realistically maybe find it in a black market, you know? Maybe even certain lightsabers in the future might be added to this black market too, who knows? It's a black market at the end of the day. I also went ahead and made an apparel vendor and a droid vendor. Droid vendor just sold any equipable droid skins, which we don't have too much of right now, but obviously we will later on. And the apparel vendor sold the 2 scarves we had in the mod list already. So then I thought it would be a damn shame to get people all excited about all these Coruscant changes, and then they come to this new area, interact with a vendor that sells only 2 scarves. So again, I said fuck it, and made a complete cosmetic add-on system to work with all the armors in the game already. Basically, you can mix and match capes, waist capes, masks, hoods, hats, and even robotic arms on some armors. And again, this is a system that will be expanded on over time. We're gonna build up so many add-ons to the point that everyone's gonna have their own unique character and look finally. Even more so than before. It's not gonna be limited to just helmet, armor, jetpack from this point forward. And yeah, that's the end of the month-long rabbit hole I entered. Tython, funny enough, was not part of this rabbit hole. I had it planned for a while because I needed a way for you guys to level up your force powers without doing New Game Plus, and I figured what a great excuse to just create a unique POI and add our first ever like Jedi or Grey Jedi or whatever. And also learn how to make custom biomes, which is a huge thing, by the way. Biomes have always been tricky since there's no official way of changing them out or heavily editing them. But with some helpful resources and some scripting, I know how to make unique biomes now for future Star Wars planets. I can create one biome planets, for example, like Hoth or maybe even Mustafar, who knows? The possibilities here are just getting more and more endless. Like, you have to understand, I'm so excited to eventually finish all these faction story rewrites because that means 100% of my attention can go towards converting planets and adding unique locations all across the galaxy. Like, I know it's a bit disappointing right now seeing all these planet renames like Naboo, and then going on the planet, it's not even like remotely similar, even biome-wise, let alone the lack of cities. But trust me, I have big plans. Lots of cool projects in the works from both me and other Star Wars modders, but also lots of outsourcing going on too. By now, I've dropped around $6,000 on the project, so it's a pretty serious passion of mine. Obviously, I've overspent a little on stuff, but you have to realize this is kind of a race against time. A lot of times I'm paying for speed. I just really want to get this project up to a certain presentable point where I can, chill. I can take breaks, play other games, etc. Same thing I did with Coruscant, just a much larger scale, obviously. The main goal is a state of the game where all the faction quests and main stories are rewritten and revoiced, and both Dantooine and Nar Shaddaa getting their deserved revamp just like Coruscant, along with city-specific civilian clothing and everything else involved in that. That is probably going to be what 10.0 is, and then everything after that is more so going to be focused on expanding the game outward. At the end of the day, gameplay and immersion is my #1 priority, and it's been my priority from the get-go. I don't want Starfield with a Star Wars reskin, and every update we're sort of going further away from that stigma of it's just a reskin. I want this to be a Star Wars game from start to endgame and beyond. Starfield has many fundamental issues that make it a bad game, and we've been addressing those one by one. Just hear me out for a second. The bullet sponges, they're gone. The loading screens, they're reduced. No reason to explore? Well, now there is. The main story is boring? Completely rewrote it and added additional bosses to it. Faction variety? Tripled it. Ship combat too slow? I made it faster. Weapon variety? Doubled it. Armor variety? Fucking quadrupled it. Not enough cities? Okay, here's 2 more. Outdated graphics? No worries, we got an optional 4K texture overall you can download instead. The possibilities are fucking endless. I started with Genesis with close to 0 modding experience and just learned as I really went. Up to this point, really. It was pretty rough in the beginning, and even today I'm cleaning up stuff from those days, but there are solid foundations getting set up now, just like this update. There's not really an ultimate end goal here after 10.0. There's an infinite amount of content to add and an infinite amount of space. Every update, it's going to be more and more of a giant living and breathing Star Wars galaxy where you can be whoever you want. That's all we really want, man. Instead, we're getting games with a preset character and 4 planets. Like, come on. I need Star Wars Genesis to be the bar that these multi-million-dollar companies try to reproduce. This shouldn't have to exist, but it does, and I'm going to continue working on it. So on that note, thank you all for the insane support you've been giving me these past few months. The project has been just getting more and more popular. I see the stats on the website. I recently hit over 1 million unique downloads on Nexus. It's getting much bigger than I ever thought it would, and it's just been motivating me to continue working on it. So I'll see you guys in the next update.